So I used to be someone who would wait a really, really, really long time to actually take action. And the waiting would be filled with research and learning and trying this and trying that safely from my own, experimental purposes, never putting anything actually out there. I was terrified to actually take action and take a step forward on anything that I wasn't feeling aligned with. So I had a belief within me that when I knew and it was the right choice, and if I didn't know, that meant sit still, do nothing, use your mind, play around, but don't actually take action. Once I recognized that this actually isn't like a personality trait, this isn't, this divine, intuitive sense of like, trust the universe, because I wasn't trusting the universe at all. I wasn't trusting myself. This was a deeper belief of I'm going to make a mistake, an irreparable mistake, and that's going to be really, really bad. And so the fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear of not having the competence and ability to handle a failure really overwhelmed me. Okay. And that was a belief. Okay. It wasn't that was true. It's not that I'm this special person who gets an intuitive knowing and that's the only time I can ever take action. That was just a story I was telling myself based on the deeper belief of I'm not feeling safe to take action if I'm unsure because I'm terrified of failure. I'm terrified of making the wrong decision and not being able to correct it. I see clients all the time with beliefs like this and like, I'm not enough, it's not safe to grow, it's not safe to fail, I'm not capable, I don't have the skills, I'm never able to make the right decision. These are beliefs that stem from experiences in the past. And once we have a belief, unfortunately, we tend to see it play out over and over again. It's already like in our mind, in our subconscious, so we're clocking it every time there's validating evidence for that belief. It just gets more and more embedded and we're like, yeah, see, I told you that's how it works, that's the truth. And it was almost like any time I did intuitively trust myself and move forward and it worked, that was even more validation that I have to wait for that intuitive hit. And then here I was, in my 30s, not knowing what the heck I was doing with my life, where I was going, what I wanted, extremely stuck. And then I just decided to start taking action. Just say yes to things, start risking going down the wrong path. And not just small ways, like big ways. I started a whole master's program and dropped it. I just said, whoops, thought this was going to be what I wanted. And 3 weeks in, I was like, holy, nope, not for me. I can sense that this isn't right. And I dropped it. I went through the whole process and then I changed my mind immediately. It was a little weird for my family, having me being so committed, I'm going to do this, and then changing my mind. But I just decided that there's no shame in having to change your mind or deciding to change your mind. There's no irreparable damage to going down a path and then turning around and coming back, because that's so much better than just sitting there, which is what I had been doing for a really long time. So I started just kind of moving around, poking around, trying things. And ultimately, I've ended up where I am. So you release the limiting belief and life is still life. You're still doing life. You're still growing. You're still making mistakes. Your life's still going to be lifing. But it's who you are and how you feel about it and how you are experiencing it. That's really, really important. And so an example of this, I just recently heard from a client from a couple years ago, actually. I'll share her testimony in another video, but she had mentioned that her first session with me was on fear. And though the situation that she was extremely fearful about, and it was like overwhelming her, that situation still exists in her life, yet her experience of it is so different. She's so much more calm. She isn't rattling in her own body with anxiety anymore. And she can just accept that, yeah, there might be like a negative thing that could happen, but I can't predict that. I can't control it. And I'm allowed to feel safe and secure as I am. So when we start recognizing that we don't have to have the experience we have. We don't have to identify as being the person with this thing. My client didn't have to identify as being overwhelmed by fear. I didn't have to identify as being someone who only took action when it was 100% intuitively clear, right? And I was identifying as that. But when you realize that it's just a belief under there that's kind of encouraging that and making that feel like the safe option and the right option, then you can change it. And that's what I did. That's what my client did. That's what many of my clients do. And once you change that belief, your whole experience changes. So if you're curious about working with me, you can book a free consultation to chat. Otherwise, I'm wishing you the very best. Take care.